One of the first things that I've added is this really cool Day of the Dead Sugar Skulls garland. I picked this up at a little local mom and pop dollar store, and it's, they're just little, like, papery, cardstocky kind of little skulls, but I thought they were a nice touch. Let me back up. There they are, next to my mailbox. And I also added a garland, the same garland, to my front windows. That's the other garland on my front windows there. Yet another thing I've added to my outdoor decor, a really cute little jack-o'-lantern lawn and leaf bag right in the corner near the front door. And he has a buddy in my front garden. That's the other one, the other jack-o'-lantern lawn and leaf bag. And I also added some little paper skeletons. It's one, and that's the other on either side of my front door. So it kind of looks like that. There's like a whole skeleton death theme going on. And I have some flowers too in the front of the house in autumn colors. There's one, two. So I added these floral planters to the front of the house in autumn colors. I thought they'd kind of give a nice little autumn feel. But I have a secret. Not all the flowers are real. Some of the flowers kind of died off. So what I did was I took some like sort of realistic looking silk flowers and I kind of tucked them in there. Don't tell my neighbors. Greetings, brothers and sisters. Hello and welcome back to Eva's House of Spirit. For those of you who are newer to this channel, I'm Eva. Welcome back as well to my 13 Days of Samhain series. This is the video for day 8, and today's topic is going to be Samhain tea. I do want to apologize before I get into this video for this video being so late. We're sort of like a day behind, but not really, because I'm going to catch us up. And there's going to be enough time in between this video and the next one that we can sort of catch up. So, that being the case, I am sorry. I fell asleep earlier than I wanted to last night, and today I'm up earlier than usual, so I just figured it doesn't make sense to go to bed, because if I go back to bed, I won't be up in time for work, and I guess everything happens for a reason, and maybe that's why I woke up early. So, with that said, let's get into today's topic. Let's kind of catch ourselves up here. So, in my last video, in the video for day 7, I mentioned that hot cocoa is really nice to drink on crispy fall evenings. Well, hot cocoa is one nice thing to drink, but I think any warm beverage is really soothing and seasonally appropriate, I guess you could say, on crispy fall evenings. And many of us, being witchy, magical peoples, we like our tea. Not everybody. I know some of you may not really dig tea as much, but I think a lot of us kind of do. So I thought it would be seasonally appropriate to share some tea recipes with you and to talk a little bit about tea. So today I'm going to share with you a recipe for caffeine-free apple tea. And I'm also going to share with you 2 teas, recipes that come to us from Anne Mora. She is the author of the Green Witchcraft series of books. The first thing I want to say before I share these recipes with you is that some recipes may have teas in them that contain tannins, as bases. The only tea that doesn't have tannin is rooibos because it's not actually the same kind of plant. When you have teas with tannins in them, when you steep these teas, you want to be careful to steep them only between 3 to 5 minutes, and I'll tell you why. If you steep them longer, because of the tannin, the tea can begin to taste a little chalky. Do what you like to do, but yeah, it's just good to know about the tannins. Okay, so Anne Mora has a recipe for us for clairvoyance tea. I think that this tea would be very well suited to this time of year because the veil is thin, because it's a time where we do a lot of divination or are in communication with spirits. So this is a really good one for kind of opening those psychic centers. This tea calls for 1 teaspoon of mugwort, 1 teaspoon of thyme, 1 teaspoon of rosemary, or 1 teaspoon of yarrow, your choice. And it's optional that you can have a teaspoon of black tea as a base. So you would blend up all the herbs, and then you can use some of the tea to make yourself a cup of tea, with your little tea ball. Like one of these infuser doohickeys you can use with loose tea. The second tea recipe I wanted to share from Anne Mora is a recipe for fairy tea. This tea calls for 3 teaspoons of black tea, 1 teaspoon of chamomile, 2 teaspoons of dandelion root, 1 teaspoon of elderflower, 1 teaspoon of hops, 2 teaspoons of mullein, 2 teaspoons of raspberry leaf, and 2 teaspoons of rose hips. And she has sort of like a little rhyme or incantation that kind of goes with this tea. It says, fairy tea, black for strength, an apple of night, wild grown root, and lady's blessing, hops for joy, then between the worlds, tangle of bramble and fairy knots, kissed with love, brewed to invite the fair folk to tea. So I think that would be an excellent tea for this time of year because, it's not just spirits of the deceased that we work with or that are near at this time of year. All spirits, anything within the spiritual realm, any entities or beings there, will have sort of closer proximity to us. We will have more of an open avenue of communication with them. So maybe having this tea will sort of put you in a more receptive state, and maybe it'll kind of like also bless and guide your dealings with the Fae this season. Okay, so this recipe that I have to share with you for Samhain, it is an apple tea, a lovely apple tea that is caffeine free. So for those of you who cannot have caffeine, there are some people out there that just can't for various reasons. This tea would still be good for you. You could also drink this one at night, without worrying about, oh, is it going to keep me up? Oh my God. So that's a good thing. This is an apple tea made with fresh apples, so it's going to be rather nice. And this tea does have certain energy about it, certain symbolism about it, that is very suitable to this time, to this seasonal tide to the holiday. First of all, what's in this tea? I'm going to share with you what's in this tea. We need 3 cups of water. This is a jar that actually has measurement lines on it, and I measured up to the 3-cup point. You need 3 cups of water, obviously not hot. You're going to start with room temperature or cold water. And I'm going to use 2 apples. This one looks a little beat up, but actually he's not really. Natural apples sometimes will have little like crazy looking, well, he got bruised a little in the fridge, but that's okay. They'll have like crazy looking little like markings and stuff, just how they grew, you know, but you can cut that off when you peel the apple. So it's not really like, it doesn't affect the quality of the apple. It's just an organic, you know, fresh apple. So yeah, I've got 2 apples, kind of on the smaller side. The recipe calls for like 8 ounces of apple slices. I'm not whipping out my scale. I'm just going to like say 2 apples should be enough. I think 2 apples for 3 cups of water is plenty. I will also caution you folks, when you make this, be sure you remove all the apple seeds. Apple seeds contain traces of arsenic. You probably shouldn't be boiling apple seeds, just saying. Please protect yourselves. Cut out the apple seeds, especially. The next 2 things that are going to be in... Oh, wait. I didn't talk about the symbolism of the apples. Where am I going with this? Okay, so, sorry, backtrack a minute. Apples. They're a wonderful seasonal fruit, obviously. But they have a lot of lore attached to them. It's very extensive. I tend to associate them most readily with the dead. I consider apples to be the food of the dead. But I find too that apples are also good when you're working with spirits. You know, it doesn't have to be offering. You don't have to just offer apples. You can, you know, bury apples, as is a tradition on Samhain for the dead. You can offer apples or foods with apples in them to the dead as well. But I find like in communication with spirits, I will often use apple incense. You could hypothetically, I don't really tend to do this, but you could hypothetically drink an apple tea like this when you're doing divinations or doing spirit communication. But apples, they also have a close association, a connection to wisdom, you know, an association with wisdom and enlightenment. You know, if you think of the story of Adam and Eve, that was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Which, by the way, people talking about sin and stuff. God knew that Adam and Eve, okay, we're going to eat from this tree. God's not stupid. He put the tree in the garden because he was seeking to enlighten people, but he wanted to give them free choice. You know, God wanted to give them the free will to decide if they wanted to be enlightened or not. Well, obviously, in the story, Adam and Eve, they go and they eat the fruit. They become all enlightened. God kicks them out of the Garden of Eden. You know why? Because they needed to move out into the wider world and have some real experiences. Just like they say that ignorance is bliss. When you don't know about things, things don't upset you, things don't hurt you, things don't affect you. When Adam and Eve got booted out of the Garden of Eden, they were no longer ignorant. They were no longer in paradise. Okay, that was metaphorical right there. That story is not about sin. It's about the choice to do good or evil. Or the choice to do what you want versus the choice to do what you're told to do. And so anyway, people became enlightened. They went out into the world. They knew things, truly. Not as beautiful, and, you know, life was not a paradise anymore, is what I'm trying to say. You know, life wasn't perfect anymore. They saw the forest for the trees, finally. So I associate apples with enlightenment, understandings, you know, knowledge attained, wisdom, all that kind of great stuff. And again, I don't think God in that story was being a prick. I think God knew exactly what he was doing. Um, just saying. But anyway, so that's just like, that's a Christian story, but apples, they do have a magical and spiritual lore about them. You know, they do have an association, I think, on some level, otherwise to that Christian story with wisdom and knowledge and attainment and all that kind of stuff, enlightenment. So that's why this tea is very appropriate for this time of year in many respects, I think. There's also, in this recipe calls for, ooh, I dropped it, 2 cinnamon sticks, and if you can see through my glass bowl, 4 cloves, 4 whole cloves. Cinnamon is an herb that, I've said it and I'll say it again, is excellent for luck, blessings, prosperity. It also adds spice to love relationships or to life. You know, so cinnamon is always a wonderful seasonal herb. And the cloves, you know, they're very protective. So those are good to add in there. And cloves are also, again, seasonal. And the cinnamon and the cloves, they do add a nice flavorful complement to the apples. So that's what's in this recipe, really. Just fresh apples, cinnamon, cloves, water. Oh, and sugar to taste, of course. So that's, with the water, 5 ingredients in all. So it's an odd number. I tend to like to make my teas in odd numbers. So how you make this, I'm not going to make it right now on camera because I just don't have time to make this right now. You would slice up your apples, you know, peel them first, slice them up. Please be sure to remove the seeds entirely. You really don't want apple seeds in your apple tea. Again, they contain traces of arsenic. So yeah, you peel your apples, you slice your apples. What you're going to do is you're going to bring the 3 cups of water to a boil in a saucepan on the stove, or in whatever pan can fit those 3 cups of water and have a little extra room. Boil up that water, and then you're going to throw in your apple slices, you're going to throw in your 2 cinnamon sticks, and you're going to throw in your 4 cloves. You can bring the heat on the stove down a little bit so that you're simmering the tea for about 15 minutes, because there's no, in this tea, there's no actual tea with tannins. So you're not going to get that chalky flavor. You can boil this longer. And then when it's done, you can strain out the cinnamon and the cloves. You can strain out the apple slices. You might want to take a fork and kind of push on the apple slices to release a little more of their juice into the tea before you strain it, though. And then you just pour the tea into your teacups and add your sugar to taste and enjoy. Sugar, by the way, also complements this seasonal tea, I forgot to mention, because sugar is symbolic of and has the energetic vibration of the sweeter things in life. Love. What's the other word I'm looking for? Endearment. Endearment, that's the word. So, yeah, this is a nice apple tea that you can enjoy for Samhain, you know, leading up to Samhain, at Samhain. Honestly, even into November, I think this would be a very nice tea. So I think it's time for our question of the day. This one is kind of it's kind of 2-part, but it's rather simple. I invite you, if you wish to answer the question of the day, to go down into the comments below and answer: do you prefer loose tea or bagged tea? Also, do you prefer to make your own tea blends, or do you prefer to drink commercially available store-bought teas? Let's talk about that. As for your journaling exercise, I invite you to write down the recipes in this video. That way you'll have them for times when you want to whip up a nice tea. They don't have to be used at Samhain time. They can be used at other times as well. But you know, if you write them down, you'll have them and you'll know where they are. You can reference them should you need them. They'll be at the ready. I also invite you in your Samhain journal to develop, maybe if you think you're up to the task, develop your own Samhain tea. You can choose to use an odd number or an even number of ingredients. You can choose to have a tea base. You might want to have, let's say, black tea, and then you might add herbs to that, or a green tea maybe, or a rooibos tea, or some kind of like tea base that you might want to add stuff to. And then you can just choose your herbs for their flavor and for what you think might complement one another, and also for their magical. Oh my God, there goes my alarm. There goes my alarm to get up for work. I don't know if you can hear it. Let me go turn that off. Sorry about that. I just turned off the alarm. What I was saying was you can choose ingredients for their magical or spiritual energy or vibration or associations or symbolism. Basically, you can tweak your recipe until you develop a really good one that is your own, something that you can be proud of and have, something that you will have developed through trial and error and fine-tuned to be a really great tea. But I will say though, those of you who are not really that familiar with herbs, not all herbs are always safe and good for you. Some herbs you have to be careful with. You know, some things can not be so great for you. Some herbs can even be downright poisonous. So please only work, excuse me, please only work with herbs that you are familiar with, that you know are safe for ingestion. If you don't know if an herb is safe for ingestion, do some research. Just be safe. You know, don't go doing experiments with herbs that you don't know. For those of you who are newer to herbal workings, don't just go, oh, that's green, it should be safe, because it's maybe not. You don't know. Anyhow. So yeah, that's your journaling exercise. Don't forget to check out your witchy link of the day as well. Here's a hint though for your witchy link of the day. Look for the buttons or links that take you through the steps. Okay, I'm just going to say that with your witchy link of the day. There will be little links or buttons taking you through the steps. First page you open up with that link is not all there is to what it has to say. There are steps. There are like, you know, it continues on, but you got to look for the little button or link that says like, okay, step 2 or 3 or whatever it is, or, you know, next or whatever the heck it says. It leads you through it. That's all I'm going to say. But do check it out. It's really cool. And with that, I got to get going because it's 2:39. I got to get this video edited. I have to get this video up. I have to start getting ready for work really soon. And yeah, I guess that's all I have for you. Just some recipes and ramblings in regard to Samhain tea. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, even though it's a little like, even though it's a little late. Maybe it kind of worked out for the best that this video was late though, because my last video it was sort of heavy, I think, with food for thought. So maybe you kind of needed some time to really absorb the last one before this one, so. Oh well, it is what it is. Later today I will be uploading for day 9. So don't get weirded out by like, day 8, day 9, what the hell? You know, it's okay. It really is okay. But yeah, I'm going to wish you all blessed be and a.s.a.p. And until next time. You all stay awesome. And bye-bye for now.